Good morning, everyone. My name is Shara Savage in the Office of Assessment and Accountability. I'm the Education Administration Program Manager. We hope that you all have had a wonderful holiday break filled with rest and quality time with your loved ones, and we wish each of you a happy new year. Today, I am stepping in for Jennifer Stafford, who sends her apologies for not being able to join us today. She's currently meeting with legislators this morning as the legislative session has kicked off here in Frankfort. As DACs, you may want to keep an eye on any educational bill that may impact your work. Now, let's dive into the today's agenda. We have some valuable updates lined up for you. First, Kristen Mosenberry will be providing important ACT reminders. Krista Mullins has reminders on the AKSA Makeup Window 1. Chris Williams will share access reminders. As you know, we are in the midst of access testing. And Lisa Jett has exciting information about the upcoming February DAC trainings and the Q&A sessions that will follow. If you have any questions during this time, please email DAC info, as Ben Riley will be fielding your questions. So thank you for being here, and at this time I will turn things over to Kristen.
Thank you, Shara. Good morning. As Shara said, my name is Kristen Roseberry. I'm a program consultant in the Office of Assessment and Accountability, and I have a few ACT reminders for you today. First, we have some deadlines related to accommodations. January 19th is the deadline to request accommodations in the TAA system. If you wait until that deadline to submit those accommodations for a student, they may not be approved. So the earlier you get those submitted, the better. The reconsideration window is open until February 2nd. And so this is when you have received a denial letter from one of your students for possible expired documentation. Maybe they were denied or there's been changes in accommodations. This is not for new accommodation requests, but again, it's for any reconsiderations that need to happen. And that closes February the 2nd. Another upcoming deadline is for the verify enrollment task. And this needs to be completed by January 26th for students to receive their barcodes and non-test instructions. As of yesterday, all of your students should be loaded into the ACT Pearson Access Next system, and you can begin enrolling verifying those enrollments today. And again, please have that done by January 26th. For site readiness, proctor caching is no longer available in Pearson Access Next. January 31st is the deadline for site readiness, and so included on this slide are several links to help you get your schools and districts ready to administer the ACT this spring. And finally, I just wanted to remind you of the next ACT administration training webinar that's coming up. It will be on February the 13th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Eastern Time. This will be recorded and posted to the ACT website later if you're unable to attend at that time. But the link to register for the training or to see the recorded training later can be found under Step 4 on the ACT Spring Kentucky website. And so that is all of the ACT reminders that I have for you today. But before I hand it off, I wanted to check and see if Ben has any questions on DAC info about ACT.
Sure, I'm hitting the refresh button right now to make sure. And it looks like we don't have any at this time, but we will circle around at the end. So please feel free to email those questions in, and we'll make sure we get them answered.
Thank you, Ben. Now I will hand the presentation over to my colleague, Krista.
Thank you, Kristen. And hello, everybody. And I hope your new year has started off well. I am coming to you today with some reminders about our AKSA Window 1 makeup that has already begun. And so there's just some things I wanted to remind you about as we jump into this window and work through that. So the makeup window for AKSA Window 1 began on this Monday, January the 8th, and it will close on Friday, March 22nd. The form requesting a makeup for Window 1 of the AKSA was sent in the Monday DAC email on December 11th and January 8th. The link can also be found on this slide. Prior to submitting the form, please be sure to add students into the Student Registration Database, or the SRD, if they are not already in the database. You will receive an email with a copy of your responses on the form once you submit the makeup request form. Once KDE reviews the makeup request, please allow up to 2 business days for KDE to review this request. An email will be sent to the DAC to communicate if the request was approved or not approved. Once approved, Daryl Mattingly will open the window for the student in SRD. And as a reminder, earlier I had just said about making sure they are in the SRD, and that's an important step as Daryl opens the window for these students. If they are not in the SRD, he is unable to open that window for them. All scores must be entered into the SRD by the close of business on Friday, March 22nd. If for some reason a student is unable to complete testing during the makeup window, the student may complete Window 1 and Window 2 in the spring during Window 2. KDE encourages districts to use the makeup window to complete Window 1 testing if at all possible. As a reminder, medical non-participations are not submitted until the spring. And I'd like to check with Ben and see if we have any questions about the makeup window for AKSA.
We do not have any at this time, but we'll follow back around at the end.
All right, thanks so much, Ben. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, Chris Williams.
Thank you, Krista. Hi, everyone. Well, today I'm going to bring you some important reminders for access. And as Shara alluded at the beginning of our training, for this DAC webcast, that access window is open, and yes, it is. It's ready for lots of things for access. And so we are in the access window, and it's very important that, that we do get all of our students tested during this time for both our online testing for access for our students, and then also for our students who are also testing paper with kindergarten and alternate access, and then also our accommodated materials of Braille and large print. So like I said, our window started last week, and we are knee-deep into access window. And I appreciate all those districts who have started, because we always want to remind you to always start closer to the window, because we do have weather that affects us during this time for our access window. And our window goes to February 16th. That'll be the last day to test any of your students for access. So be mindful of that. Also, there is no opt-out of testing for any of our state required assessments. So students have to either test in person, or also we do have some students who do some off-site testing, like home hospital, virtual schools, etc. And if you are testing off-site, or we do have a few districts who have some testing that is done later after the school day, those have to be approved. And then we also, for any off-site testing, those have to be approved through KDE. And then we work with our vendor DRC to make sure all of the devices are ready to go. Now, for test security, we always want to make sure that we are monitoring our students throughout the testing window. And if you're doing, whether it be, group administering some of the domains, or to individual testing of students. And when we're testing students, make sure with monitoring that you've collected all of their cell phones. Also, earbuds are one of those things, because, for me, I have long hair. I can also put some earbuds in and be connected to my phone that way. So just kind of watch students, with that, make sure you've collected all their devices. Because when they're in the platform, they cannot get to any of those devices, so they would have to have an external device to go to somewhere else. And remember, they're not supposed to be having those devices during testing. That is good for instruction, but not during any of our state required assessments. And Access is one of those state required assessments. We also want to always manage our materials just like we do for any of our state required assessments, especially if are doing online. You got to make sure those test tickets are secure. Any scratch paper that you've used with paper testing, with test booklets, that those are secure. You have a check-in and check-out process. And with scratch paper, when you're testing online, you have the notepad to be able to jot down just any just quick things for you, because you do not have a whole lot of time to be using those materials, because you've got a certain time limit within the system to take each of those domains. Then of course, if you're doing paper testing, you will need a physical scratch paper, but those have to be requested. And some cautions around scratch paper is we always want to make sure that we're using that appropriately. It shouldn't be us writing out a script to be able to do the speaking domain, because we want the students' voice to be natural and them to answer as soon as they push record. It shouldn't be rehearsed for them. Also, we shouldn't have writing down, everything we want to say, for writing to and then entering in, because you will not have enough time to be able to do that. So, it should be just for quick notes, just to kind of help the student, be ready to get ready for speaking or for the writing domains. Now they can have it in the other domains as well, but like I said, all these precautions should be in place. And then just like the test tickets and the test booklets, that scratch paper is secure materials. And with the scratch paper, you want to destroy that, collect that each time from the student when they're testing, and destroy that according to your district policy. Also with the test tickets, you want to make sure you collect those test tickets just like you would test booklets as well. And then with our students who are testing online for grades 1 through 3, some of the reminders, just want you to know that there is the additional materials ordering, to be able to order those materials before you get ready to do that for grades 1 through 3. Please make sure that the student has already tested with listening and reading. And then once the student has tested with listening and reading, you will go to the tier level report in WIDA AMS and be able to get the tier level report to know which booklet to either pull from your materials that you have at the schools, or for your district overs that your district assessment coordinator has. And then if you have exhausted all those materials and you need to do that additional materials, just please to let your DAC know. Your DAC will be able to place those materials. And if you've already ordered materials already this year, there's no need to send me an email saying what materials you're going to need. Just go ahead and go into WIDA AMS and order those materials. If this is your first time doing a additional materials order, please email me and let me know which materials you're going to order, and then I will grant you those permissions in WIDA AMS, and you'll be able to order those. Also, just as a thing, we have our English learners are always mobile. And so during the testing window, it's always important to check with your person who is registering your students to see if you've got any new students coming in, because if you've got any students who are in grades 1 through 12, they'll test online. And so you don't have to order any additional materials for them. You would just, if they're brand new and this is their first time in a U.S. school, or they came from out of state and this is their first time in your district, they've not been in any other district, then you will add those to WIDA AMS. Now, be careful when it comes to students who are coming to you from another district in Kentucky. Because those students could already have been pre-populated in WIDA AMS. And so if those students come from from another district in Kentucky, reach out as a DAC to the DAC that student is coming from, and see if that student has already completed testing, because we don't want duplicates in the system for testing. And then we also don't want students testing more than one time for all 4 domains. And if a student is in the system in the previous district and they have started testing but have not completed testing, then you as the new DAC who has got this student, you will go in and do the district transfer form in WIDA AMS. And then once you have filled that out completely, DRC will be able to go in and transfer that student from the previous district to your district, so that way you can finish testing that student on any domains that the student didn't complete. And then the previous district would want to remove the student from any test session that the student did not complete. And then if you've got a student who is, for example, is moving from school to school in your district, of course, you as the DAC and some of your BACs can also transfer those students from one school to the next. You do not have to do that transfer form. That's only for district to district. Make sure that you are testing all your students. You should not be testing any student who had exited in previous years or in this, prior to this school year. Those students have already exited and should not be testing. They are just like any other student, and they would not take the access assessment. Seating charts, it's always important that with seating charts that you are using those for both individual and group testing for all of your sessions. You should have that mapped out to where students are seating, who the adults that are in the room that are administering those. And it's also important to know if students are absent during testing. You also want to mark those on the seating charts. And if anything that happens during testing, you also want to annotate those on the seating charts as well. Because for rosters that, at this time for access and alternate access are just for non-participations only. And so if you've submitted a medical non-participation or student withdrew during the testing window, you will have to, your students will not be pre-populated into rosters during this time, like spring rosters. So you will have to add the student just to do a non-participation only. And that rosters have already opened. There's trainings too for the access rosters, and just like there's trainings for access and alternate access. And so that window will not close till March 7th. So keep in mind you have a little bit more time to enter in, add students and enter in any non-participations only for those students. And then allegations. I got a question about allegations this week. So just want to reiterate that particular part, that allegations do happen during access testing. And if they do, those are reported just like any of our state required assessments through Cavion, through our online process. Make sure you have all the documentation and all the forms filled out before uploading that into the Cavion system. And then one more last thing I want to talk about is site visits. Site visits are one of those things that is federally required for all of our state required assessments, that we come out and visit districts during testing. And we do have that site visit form available for you to kind of preview, but it should not be filled out prior to our visit. And we'll come in and do some site visits during access, just like we do for any of our other assessments. And so we look forward to visiting you during some of these visits, during these site visits, because it's always great to come out and see all the great things that are happening in your schools and districts. And like I said, you know, a lot of people will say, you know, thank you, but I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, because I couldn't do my job without you for Access. And I appreciate all you do, because it is a busy time right now. And like I said, I'm excited about Access testing for this year. We've been doing great so far, so we want to continue that. And then just ask any questions that you have for me. I'll be more glad to assist you with that. Ben, at this time, are there any questions for Access testing?
Yes, we have a couple come in. Give me just a second. I'll pull up the first one here.
Okay.
This one, they are asking, they have 2 students that are showing on their DRC Access testing roster that moved to Mexico, and they want to know what can they do about this. And they ask, do they fix it up in the SDRR cleanup, or do they do it in some way in DRC?
Okay, great question. So if you've got any students who have moved during your testing window, and they have not completed, you know, all of Access testing, or if they moved prior to Access testing, and they, you always want to remove students from any domains that they have not tested in the DRC Insight in WIDA AMS. And so you will remove them from any test registrations, because, you know, we used to call them test sessions. Now they're called test registrations. So you would, if the student moved prior to your testing window, you would remove them from all 4 domains. And then if it's during testing and the student hasn't tested or had tested some domains, remove them from any domain that they did not test from any registration in WIDA AMS. Ben, was there another question?
Yes, there was. This one came in, and let me pull it up. Actually, we just had another one come in too. Great. I have 2 students that the accounts in WIDA for Access testing with tickets. I know how to remove them from test sessions, and will do that because they are monitored only, and they exited in 2022. Do these students need to be entered in SDRR as not testing because they tested out in prior years?
No. Okay, so 2 things you got to do. So if, for example, when we were talking about, you know, we're not supposed to be testing any exited student. So if you did not go in and prior to, you know, at the end of October and enter that information into Infinite Campus, then your students were pre-populated into test sessions. So if that happens, make sure you've got several things you need to do for exited students. One thing is you want to make sure IC reflects that the student was exited as of 6/30 of that year that they did exit. Make sure IC shows that now. If you did not do that prior to before ordering window ended, for us to send a pre-ID label file to DRC. Another thing is to go into WIDA AMS. If the student showed up as a pre-populated test session, just remove them from any test sessions from all 4 registrations. And then there is nothing to do in rosters for those students, because those students will not show up, you know, in the spring, because, you know, we do have another look at access rosters in the spring. And then I would also, on your seating charts, make sure to annotate that that student had exited, if you have that student on your seating charts, and do not test any exited student who exited prior to this year.
Thanks, Chris. And then I looked at that third question we got, and it was a technical question about accessing the link on this slide. So I've already helped that person out, and we're good there. So I have no more questions at this time.
Okay. Thank you, Ben, and thank you for all the questions. And like I said, any questions that you have during access testing, just feel free to either email me or call me, and I'll be more than glad to assist you in any way possible. And one thing I do want to say before I leave with the access rosters is that if you've got any student who moved prior to the access window, you do not put in a non-participation for that student in the access rosters. Now, if you've got a student who did not complete testing, they started testing and they moved during the testing window, then you would want to add the student to the roster and fill out that non-participation. But if the student completed testing prior to moving, there's nothing to do in SDRR. So hope that clarifies what to do in WEDA-AMS, what to do in access rosters, and in Infinite Campus. And like I said, we do have our EL data standards too, if you need assistance to help you with what to do in Infinite Campus for the EL tab underneath program participation. So Ben, since there are no more questions, I am going to turn it over to my wonderful colleague, Lisa Jett, who's going to talk about February DAC trainings.
Sounds good. If we get any more, I'll circle back around at the end.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thanks, Chris. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Lisa Jett. I'm a consultant in the Office of Assessment Accountability. I'm going to give you some information on the upcoming February DAC trainings. Let me move the slide. The training materials, including the PowerPoint presentations, the FAQ, will be released in the upcoming Monday DAC email on Monday, January 15th. Please take time to review these trainings prior to attending any of the February DAC Q&A sessions. As in the past, these sessions are designed to answer any and all of your questions concerning the upcoming assessments. Consultants will not be delivering trainings these days. The Office of Assessment and Accountability will be hosting 3 Q&A sessions this February. Our first session will be an in-person only session at the Sauer Building on February 5th. Due to the capacity limits, educators will need to register prior to the event to ensure seating is available for the Frankfurt Q&A session. OAA will then travel to the Kentucky Development Corporation in Ashland, Kentucky on February 15th. This will be the first of 2 hybrid sessions where participants can register to attend in person or join us online for the Q&A session. The last Q&A session, which will be a hybrid session, will be held on February 21st at the West Kentucky Educational Cooperative in Eddyville. Participants can register using the 2024 February DAC training registration form located on the bottom of the slide. When registering, you'll be given a choice as to which session you will be attending. Registration will close the day before each event or once capacity has been met. The February DAC Q&A session timelines will follow the same format as last year. We have delegated timeframes to various upcoming assessments to allow for specific questions pertaining to those assessments. And then you'll ask your question, we'll answer it, ensuring your questions are received. OAA will provide a way for educators to record their off-topic questions, allowing consultants to circle back to them when the time is right. When viewing the timeline, please keep in mind that these are local times. If you have any questions pertaining to the February DAC trainings or the Q&A sessions, please email me at lisa.jett@education.ky.gov, or you can email DAC info. Ben, do you have any questions? at this time?
Yes, we did get one small question. I think I've already got the answer to it too.
Okay.
This person just noticed that on our slide and both at the top of the Google form, it said February 5th for our Frankfurt training, but the submission response on the question said February 2nd. So I've gone ahead and corrected that to say February 5th for everybody. I just wanted to confirm on the air that's correct, right?
That is correct. Thank you, Ben.
All right. That's the only question we've gotten for our February DAC training so far. If we have any more, I will circle back around with you at the end.
Awesome. Thank you. So if there are no more questions, I'm going to turn it over to Shara.
Thank you, Lisa. So I just want to clarify something as well. Those February DAC training videos and PowerPoints and the FAQ will go out in the Monday DAC email on January the 29th. So we're excited to get those out to you and seeing you in the field. See here. Now, so Ben, do we have any other questions at this time before we?
We do have two questions. We have one AKSA question we received, and then we also just received one more access question.
Okay, so start off with Chris and then move on to the AKSA one.
Sounds great. Chris, if you want to go ahead and hop on, I'll give you a second here while I read it on the air. This one is just a simple question of, is the site visit form the same form, or for access, the same form that is used for KSA?
We do have a separate form for this than the other, but it does have some similar questions that you'll see on, for the KSA and AKSA site visits in the spring. But we do have specific ones that are just for access. So, those are, specific to the particular assessments. And so we always want to make sure, because, like, for example, some of the similar questions are, we all have to have an administration and code and inclusions training. So, we'll have questions around that. But then, we do have additional access trainings that we do. And then we have different, of course, with testing, we have for access, we have 4 domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing, where for AKSA and KSA, we have content areas. And so, there are differences with those. So you always want to make sure that you look over each of those prior to us coming out. And like we said, we always contact our district assessment coordinators prior to us coming out. We usually give you about 30 minutes heads up, to let you know that we are in your area and going to visit. And if you are willing and able to come out and attend the site visit with us, that is wonderful, because we're always glad to see our district assessment coordinators, with us at the schools when we do these site visits. Ben, were there any? Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I just want to add that we will be updating. We are in the process of finishing updating all of those site visit forms, and those will be released in an upcoming DAC email very soon.
All right.
Thank you, Shara.
Thank you, Ben. Absolutely. We have our AKSA question next. And then after that, we've received one more question about our, I believe, our February DAC trainings. So I'll go ahead and ask that AKSA question now. Krista, this question is, if they haven't heard anything back about a makeup test request made before the holiday season, should they resubmit the request?
Yes. If you have not heard anything back, please resubmit that request. I have responded and sent emails to everyone. I have not responded to any that were received this morning, or maybe yesterday afternoon, late afternoon, but I have responded to all the ones prior to the holidays. I would advise you that if you have bookmarked maybe the form from last year, to be sure you use the link in this slideshow. and the one sent in the DAC emails recently, as the form is a different form. And one way you'll know that it was submitted properly is it will send you an email after you submit the form with a copy of your responses.
I'll add to your answer too, as well there, Krista. If they're having any technical trouble, please feel free to either email DAC info, or they can email even me directly, since I handle that for our office at ben.riley@education.ky.gov, and I'm happy to help them with technical issues with that form too.
Thanks so much, Ben.
Mm-hmm. And then our final question is for our February DAC training. So I'll give Lisa just a second to hop on air here while I read it out loud. And that is it appropriate for brand new BACs to attend the Q&A sessions with me? They are a DAC, the person emailing us, to build background knowledge around the testing platforms.
I would say yes. I would recommend that they do attend.
So I would also add to make sure that they register separately too, so we can accommodate for the number of people attending. All right, that's all the questions I have, Shara. So I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Lisa. Thanks, everyone. So it's a good transition there. We've been talking about the February DAC Q&A sessions that we will be out in the field where we'll be seeing you. So we will be canceling the February DAC webcast. So as we will be out visiting with you during that time with the February DAC Q&A sessions. Just to follow up with that last question, yes, BACs are most certainly welcome. We encourage it they do receive some good background knowledge in the state testing assessments that we provide. So with that, we are looking forward to seeing each of you. We're excited, and we thank you for joining us today. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy, and definitely stay warm during this cold period. Thank you.